I mean, before starting, this is just what we talked about yesterday about how a person has to create, and that wonderful quote that you said about a person creating.
The quote came from when I was a kid. They asked me, the high school. They go, what do you what is going to be your quote? And people would, do everything from Aerosmith to Hemingway to Whitman and all that. And I didn't know what quote I'd say. And I said, well, the quote that really kind of summed me up is I believe that a man must create as he must breathe. Without one or the other, he has neither life nor soul. A man must create as he must breathe. Without one or the other, he has neither life nor soul. A person, a woman, a man, a child, a living being must create as he must or she must breathe. Without one or the other, he has neither life nor soul. And I thought that was a very interesting quote that I came up with at a young age. And I look back on it and I thought, wow, it sounds like a quote an older man would say with a pipe in his hand, sitting in a leather chair with a fireplace in his side, the wisdom of an old sage. But it was a 17-year-old boy in San Diego. And I really think that that quote comes from another source. And I think all writing comes from another source other than ourselves. In fact, a lot of times when we write, the best things you will ever write do not sound like they came from you. They're almost like a discovery where you look and you go, wow, where did that come from? It has nothing to do with me. And that's inspiration. The whole idea of inspire is from the Latin word, I believe, inspire, and that's breath. And if you look at the ideas of old folklore and creation, God breathes into human beings. He gives them their breath, their soul. And that is where creation comes from, inspiration. And I think the best writing is inspiration. But the inspiration has to go into a living being, and that's you. That's you, and it's not the perfect you. It's not the finished you. It's not the complete you. It's you in that present moment. Words live in the present moment. They can also deal with the past. They can be in the past tense, they can be in the future tense, they can be now. But words, breathing words are now. Words has no time. Words are infinite. In other words, the words you say now will continue on and reach someone else and inspire them. That's the most amazing thing about our body, our creation, is that in a lot of times that they're trying to create a supercomputer, and they've recently been trying to create a supercomputer, and basically what that supercomputer is, it takes thought and creates. That's what we do. It really is a computer that's mimicking God and man and women, are who we are. And we're in a weird time that right now that words mean everything. There's a sensitivity to words and what they mean. And I believe words are dialogue. It's words are interpreted by people. If I say the word red, now if I say the word apple, apple, what comes to your mind? It's either red apple or green apple, depending on your experience with apples. So if I say the word snow to an Eskimo, it means 20 different things because snow, they need to know what it means. Is it snow that's slush? Is it snow that's on top of ice? That ice is over it, that doesn't go into crack into the ocean or into a river or a bank. They need to know exactly what that word snow means. And that's the same with us. What Shakespeare did is Shakespeare created so many different words, and his words he created. And you study Shakespeare, which I have. He had a working vocabulary, something like I forget the term, but I think it was something like 36,000 to 90,000 words, some huge amount. We have a working vocabulary. Most people have 12,000 words less. So we don't have many words, but we have our experience. That is what Carl Reiner says, write what you know, means write your experience. the critic inside us comes up with the fact that, oh, well, it's not that good. That was one of the things that stopped me from writing. Is I sat there and I was an actor first, and I read all these great authors. And I found after reading all these great authors that I was intimidated by them until one day when I found an author that I admired and I read his early work, and it was horrible. One day I went and saw a great comedian Seinfeld on stage, and I saw him bomb. One time I saw other people do badly, and I started to realize a lot of times doing badly is how you get to become great. That's the process. That is the process we all go through. And this is what I say about writing. What I want writing to be for all of us is a community that makes a promise with one another that will write truthfully, will write what we know, and will write. Make that promise. Before, the promise was to say you're a writer, claim it, say I'm a writer. Now the promise is to build to a community. The purpose of writing is to give you purpose. In other words, to chronicle your life and your experiences and your feelings and all those things. And then it is to share that with other people so they can look at the writing and interpret it in their own manner. And they might interpret your better and writing better than what you intended to write. You may write something so brilliant that you had no intention of it to be brilliant. It just was the truth you had to say. And a lot of times when we tell our truth, we're telling honestly, being vulnerable, telling our truth. And in telling our truth, it resonates to audiences that see it as a vulnerability and truth. And nothing is braver to an audience when someone is vulnerable and truthful. Today we want to talk about the monologue, because to understand writing, you have to understand structure. And I look at I'm inspired by books I read, philosophies, and I go back even my early days. I read the Bible as a kid, and one of the biggest mass communications for mankind was the printing press. How it revolutionized everything. And when communication comes, most communication scares everyone. Oh, AI is coming. I'm terrified. Then it's the same thing when someone had a cable from the Atlantic to Europe. Oh no, we're going to be able to talk so quickly. What does that mean? It's fear of communication is always going to be around. Beginning communication, new communication, because when the printer press was created, people were scared that all this knowledge should be given out to anyone. That someone could take the Bible and interpret it any which way. And that was fearful to the powers that be. And most people couldn't write, couldn't read. Now we live in a world of communication is all around us. We're 8 hours a day in communication. We have 8 hours a day of looking at entertainment. We're over entertained. We now live in a day of feelings. I felt this, I felt that, but no one's doing anything about reality and truth. Here's truth. Writing and your words, and it's your truth in words, and that gives you purpose to write. If someone looks at writing and says, write to save your life, write to save your life. Now, I can use the word save, meaning protect, archive, save, meaning give you life, protect your health. But I'm using it right now to say, write to save your life, to tell your story, to tell your life, and that gives you meaning. Descartes said, if I think, therefore I am. I say, you write, therefore you will be remembered, therefore you will be known, and therefore you will be. I think of my environment, happy chances, a dog barking. I don't need to write in a silent room I can take a dog barking, people talking, all those things, because the story that I need to say is so strong. It's bigger than my ego. It's bigger than my fear. It's bigger than all those things that I need to tell the story. And let's look at what the structure of writing is. Structure of writing is, first of all, it's one person saying something, another person hearing it. So if a person comes on stage and says a word, a monologue, oh, with this wooden, uh, when Shakespeare uses it, it's like, oh, can this wooden O hold the lofty fields of France? In other words, can this theater hold France? And your imagination is going to give seeing this theater. Shakespeare had there's plays were performed in the daytime mostly, and they couldn't really. There was distraction all around you. You're watching a play in the daytime with 1,000 people around you, however many, and different social classes, and you're watching someone. They had to capture people with words and make them listen. And the words were so compelling, they listened to the story. And that's what's gone for centuries. We or mankind or humankind was around a campfire telling stories. We learned to speak to tell a story. Bees do dances to tell other bees where honey is. People need to speak to tell where danger was, where animals could be found. And then it went on where people would write on a cave wall pictures and give them power. And those pictures on a cave wall, when someone sees it today, are feeling the same things that man or woman wrote and painted 5,000 years ago. Time, it's endless. I can look at the words and see the words of Anne Frank and be moved. And be moved to think that Anne Frank lives again, or hear the words of Mark Twain or anyone else, and that person lives again. And they live through the listener. So the basic structure is beginning, middle, and end. We tell stories. That's what humans do. We tell stories, beginning, middle, and end, and when they're completed. What is the biggest story you hear? Completion. They lived happily ever after. Even, forgive me for being philosophical, Jesus on the cross said it's complete. The story's done. Completion. It's what we long for more than anything else, to hear a story that is completed. Because the completion doesn't exist in real life. Name any character. Eventually he goes on a journey, overcomes the worst things, all the complexities and all these obstacles, and all of a sudden they're done. They lived happily ever after. Not true. In real life, they didn't live happily ever after. In real life, they grew old. In real life, the queen, he may have lost his queen, or she may have lost her king, or their child may have been born with a deformity, or the tragedy of things. Nothing ever stops in terms of completion, but we long for it. But that's the basic structure of story: beginning, middle, and end, completion. Normally, story is a journey. A hero or yourself has to go on this journey. Before it was, you would see uh, uh, um, characters in plays or in Greek mythology and everything else go through a story. They had to go through a journey, and that journey changed them. And it was normally a king or a queen. Later on, during modern times, it became regular people. That was the case of modern history. It wasn't a king going through a great journey. It was a person. And what I'm saying to us, let's talk about our great journey, because our great journey may not be, say, a Greek king going on a travels of thousands of miles. It might be a person. It might be someone who's poor that goes on a 1,000-mile journey to come to New York to work as a busboy in a kitchen. Is their journey less heroic or less complicated than, say, a Greek king? No. And this is probably one of the greatest things of our century, is it wasn't stories of kings and queens. It was stories of poor people like us, regular human folk that took on the monsters, that dealt with poverty, that dealt with lack of faith, lack of purpose. In fact, in Richard II, there's a great monologue, and we can insert this monologue here, of Richard II talks about when they ask him about his kingdom, and someone says, "Where's this help that's going to come?" And Richard the king says, "Of comfort no man speak. Let's talk of graves and worms and epitaphs, make our sorrow dust." And with tears, write on this paper, and that's our will. And we'll insert this right here to show what the thing is. But basically, it was a king saying at the very last end of that monologue, saying, "I feel want, taste grief, need friends. How can you say that I'm a king?" Powerful, powerful words that are written hundreds of years ago that reach out to us and tell us, here's a king that has emotions that we have. And that was the nature of Shakespeare, the nature of writing. They say, there's something like they try to chronicle all the emotions people go through. And someone said there's 7 emotions, uh, anger, lust, greed, all these different things. And someone later on came up with 36,000 emotions and all that. But here's the thing, all these emotions have never changed throughout history. You are relevant. So when we look at the story, beginning, middle, and end, we start first with the monologue. And in the monologue is you see the DNA of beginning, middle, and end. And from the monologue of a character, he's speaking to himself, or he's speaking to God, he's speaking to the audience. There's 3 different people he's speaking to, and himself. Oh, what a rogue and peasant slave am I. Hamlet. Is it not monstrous that this player here, but in a dream of passion, could force his soul that his visage wand? What he's saying is it amazing after seeing this player that he could be more passionate than me? Visage meaning face, wand. Oh, looked a certain way. He's just an actor. I'm really a person. I've really been wronged. Why aren't I as angry? And he asked all these questions. And that's, we can take a look at that monologue and really take it apart to see it as the classic monologue. Beginning, middle, and end. 3 different people he's speaking to. But that's what a monologue is. And that's what today's class is discovering a monologue. Looking at monologues, because from monologues come scenes, dialogues, 2 people. From dialogues comes another scene, moving the action along, creating more complications, more obstacles, but obstacles because there is an objective behind the obstacle. Recently there was a movie of people stuck on a mountain, trapped in snow, soccer team. Could you think of any worse obstacle that people could deal with? You've crashed on a mountain. Most of your people are dead. You're wearing warm summer clothing on top of a freezing mountain. How will you survive? That's the obstacle. The objective is to live, to survive. The objective is same objective has been through mankind when we were born, to survive, to transfer our genes to others. That biology, we need to transfer our genes. We need to survive. And in this journey into surviving, we'll run into obstacles and we'll have to figure out how to overcome these obstacles. From even the earliest days, the obstacle of a leopard, the obstacle of disease, the obstacle of hurricanes, tornadoes, of weather, of nature. You think of it. Those are obstacles. Those are great stories. Mankind is a great story. Humankind is a great story. A woman going through such pain to give birth to a child that she loves. And that spark of moving generation to generation to generation to generation. Our story is a story, and we are part of that greater story. So beginning, middle, and end. Against obstacle with an objective of completion. Stronger the obstacle, stronger the objective. If the obstacle overcomes the objective, if I'm stuck on a mountaintop and I can't get down, end of story. The story does not continue. But in this case, it does. Stuck on a mountain, those people stuck on a mountain came down from that mountain. They survived. They had problems, and each one they overcame. We're starving. What do we do? There is meat here. There is protein. Happens to be our fellow travelers. But do we do that to survive? They chose yes. Now we have to reach to the outside world to tell them we're here. Will they ever see us? No. Obstacle. Objective, we need to be seen. We won't survive. Then comes the they will follow. They will climb from that mountain all the way to the Amazonian jungle, from these high mountains to reach civilization to say we are here. The same story is in Dr. Seuss's Horton Hears a Who. Look it up. Horton Hears a Who. We're here, we're here, we're here. And we have to say, we're here, we're here, we're here by writing. And if we join other people in the same journey, I have a great honor to help you achieve that. And that's what we're going to do in this course. And this course is we're going to talk about monologue. The next class, we'll talk about dialogue and the scene. This class is monologue.